You are listening to the Wannabe Collective, your new variety podcast featuring every fandom that you could possibly think of. On the Wannabe Collective, all wannabes are welcome. Welcome, hello all, welcome to the show. You are listening to Keeping It Real. This show finally has a freaking name now, gentlemen. Shout out to Ryan Dalton for giving us that suggestion. I loved that. That's keeping it real, not with an A, but two E's. Keeping it real is like, because I always used to say, like, whenever I'd be on other podcasts, like, oh yeah, like, we're going to do that with the movie crew, but we never had like a real name. So here we are now for the first episode ever, Keeping It Real. Or maybe that was for the last Bond episode. I don't remember. Either way. Tonight, I am joined by Caleb Henley, Ethan Maestri, and Ryan Dalton. All official wannabes at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone is here, and it feels...
Does this mean I have tenure now?
I think so. I do think
awesome.
That. Yeah, I think that.
I'm just trying to figure out what that gets me. Like, I'm confused.
Yeah, Caleb mentioned me in a comment recently or a tweet, something about, anytime a podcast guest, anytime this guy is asked to be on as a podcast guest, he always, he's always like forcing like $200 to $300. And I almost said, I was like, yeah, but Caleb, you're not a guest, you're a host. So if I ain't making anything, you ain't making anything. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That would be nice though. That would be nice though. Maybe we could figure out some sort of thing in the future. But anyways, as I said before,
I'm just thinking that's an awesome gig if you can get people to pay you to come on and talk about stuff that you like. I mean, that's kind of insane.
And I mean, being so just like candid about it and be like, yeah, you want me on your show? It's $300. I'm like, $300? Like, bro, like, holy crap. I mean, all right.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows? Maybe in like 10 years, all of us will have the tenure we need to be able to demand that. Of course, Ethan will probably be dead. And Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. Gentlemen. Sorry. So sorry.
On the author side, I do charge for appearances, so I sympathize with anybody who like gets like shamed for charging for what they do for a living.
No, and you know what? If you can charge it, you should. Like 1,000% you should. And I think whoever has your, whoever is hosting you, if they're not willing to pay that, for something as a professional, whatever, then they have to respect your no at the same time.
So in context, that guy that you're referring to, that was for a sports podcast, right?
I believe
yes,
so.
He was some sort of he had some clout.
He was a reporter, but I don't think he was like a significant reporter. The way, I mean, I listen to a lot of different sports podcasts, and that's why it kind of popped up on my feed. And the way it all works, they're a pretty tight-knit community, and they're always, regardless if you work for ESPN or The Athletic or CBS, NFL, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're always going on back and forth onto each other's podcasts, and they're always doing guest appearances. And I think it was just kind of out there that this guy kind of out of nowhere was asking for money. Like,
yeah.
It was kind of different.
Yeah, so applying that to the geek culture podcast sphere, I don't think we're gonna be charging for a while.
yeah, well, exactly. And also, I think of it, it's like the equivalent of that chick about a year or two ago getting on Twitch saying like $5. You have time to watch me all day, but you can't sub for $5. We don't want to be that. Come on, guys. No. Do better. Those voices you heard, obviously I said before, Caleb Henley, Ethan Maestri, and Ryan Dalton. Gentlemen, it's good to be back. It's been a while since we podcasted. Last week we did Quantum of Solace, and we had Guy Mace back again. We also, Ethan, you were on for that one, right? It was just us three, right? It was me, you, and Guy.
I was the fanboy.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was fine. That was a fun discussion. Definitely missed Ryan and Caleb. But verbatim, I called Ryan to ask him if he was going to show up for that one that day. And verbatim, he says, "I'm too selfish with my time, and I hate that movie so much that I'm not going to watch it again." And I said, "Fair enough. All right, it's better than paying $300. You know what I mean?
Simple no would suffice.
I think it sounded more like me in tears, like, please don't make me watch that again.
Yeah. No, we Yeah, and I think also verbatim, stirring the pot a little bit here. Ethan was upset that he couldn't fight with you last week, so
Yeah.
he was he was legitimately bummed.
I showed up. I was ready to spar.
Yeah, me and Guy were like, Ethan, why are you yelling? We like this one.
I was all riled up, and I had nowhere to.
We all agree with you. Stop fighting.
Yeah, we're up, man. We all same team. Yeah, no, good times though. Obviously tonight we're reviewing, as you can tell by the title, we are reviewing Star Wars Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back. But before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of a catch-up between the four of us, what we've been up to, what we've been playing, what we've been reading, what we've been doing. And then we're going to just talk briefly about, we have these, we've done this over on, we did this on the Wanna Be Critic podcast. I've done it on Age of Geek. I think it's been best titled The State of Star Wars. So right now, I think we all might be feeling differently about it. Some of us might think it's in a good place, maybe others, I don't know. So we'll touch on that briefly as well. Caleb, I feel like I haven't talked to you in weeks. I think it has been weeks, actually.
You called me earlier today.
Well, I know I called you today, but outside of today, I think it's been quite a while.
None of us exist outside of the show.
Yeah, no, we don't have lives. We're like Tom Brady. Like, we don't get to leave our house or do anything.
Am I breaking the fourth wall? Am I not supposed to be doing that? I'm sorry. My bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine. What's up, man?
Dude, not a whole lot. I played golf today. That was fun. That was when Gabe called me. So that was great. Other than that, not a whole lot. Been going back and replaying a few old video games that I've already completed. I've been playing the show a little bit more. Been playing a little bit more in it. Need for Speed Heat, and just nothing too crazy. Just that's basically it.
Don't you have the platinum for Heat already?
Yeah, I just wanted to buy some more cars and trick them out.
Dude, I mean, that must speak to how good the game is. If you like Need for Speed, ladies and gentlemen, that's probably high praise, because once I platinum a game, I'm like, no, I'm done. Unless it has, stellar DLC. It's like, no, this is everything the developer said you should do. So, But I still have that, in my list of games I want to play. And probably sometime this fall or winter, I'll get a hair at my butt to play an arcadey racing game, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I can
understand no. Oh, sorry. No, I can definitely understand with Need for Speed. If you're a Forza person or a Gran Turismo person, it's definitely just kind of not probably on that same tier. But it is a fun arcadey fix, and I really like those games, and I enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah, man. Talk about that's one we should do for Game Club is Gran Turismo. Holy crap, that game looks so good. I'm super excited. That's cool though. Have you been shooting well in golf? Have you been? You mentioned a couple weeks ago. Have you been getting to go every week?
I've been trying to go every week. Now that it's kind of the fall, it's probably going to be winding down. But I was going every week, pretty good for a month or two, and trying to get to where I can consistently shoot below 100, which isn't fantastic or anything, but I would just like to be able to go, and if I had to play with a group of people that I had never met before, they wouldn't be waiting on me, or I wouldn't feel embarrassed playing around them. I just that's kind of the thing. I just want to be able to play and not completely embarrass myself.
Isn't that like the game of golf in general? For anyone who's not a professional, isn't that how we all try and play? You can actually play the game. Because I feel like a freaking idiot every time I go to tee off. I'm swing and a miss. I'm like Happy Gilmore, just mutter some swear words under your breath. Dang it. That's cool, though, you've been getting to go. That was fun whenever you visited a few months ago, and we got to go a couple times. That was rad. So
yeah, it's cool, and I think we talked about this a little bit when we were playing together a couple months ago. It's a great game because you're not necessarily competing against someone else. I guess if you wanted to do that, you absolutely can. But for me, it's a nice way of you're competing against yourself, and in a world that's already extremely competitive, it's nice not to have to feel like you're competing against another person. It's just more of a challenge for yourself. So I appreciate that about it.
Well said. Good to hear from you, Caleb. Ethan, let's throw it over to you. What have you been up to, bro?
Well, when I'm not sitting around my phone waiting for Gabe to call. No, I don't do that.
He's
all kind of weird.
He's all.
Yeah. Is he going to call today? No. No. Actually, I have been busy with, of all things, I got back into watching Boston Legal. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that show. And I have. Yeah, Denny Crane. Yeah. So I started watching that again. And I found myself 3 days later sitting there just binge watching episodes while playing SimCity 2000 on my PC. I went back into the archive and just because it's one of those games where I can turn the sound off and have the show going on the other monitor. It doesn't take up too much, of my computing power in my own head. And yeah, I've just been binge watching and playing SimCity 2000 for the last couple of days. That's the most recent thing. The other big thing I've been doing is trying to figure out how to take pictures through my telescope, and got some pretty decent, for me, first timer shots, first light, and was just ecstatic, over the moon with what I came up with, and then started playing with them in Lightroom and was able to bring out even more detail in them, and that got me really excited. So we're going on vacation next week, and it's going to be by the ocean, and I'm looking forward to being in a semi-dark area and setting up, in the sand on a beach somewhere and trying to take some more photos and see what I can come up with. And, that's the thing. Just keeping myself busy with things like that to occupy my mind and my time.
Please share whenever you get some good photos. What part of Florida are y'all going to?
We're going back down to the Gulf area.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we go just up the road from there. We go to Pensacola Beach.
Yeah.
So it's,
The nice thing is my wife went down there with her sister last year and said, look, I saw stars that I don't see when we're at home. And because where we're going is not packed like, Panama City or areas like that. So we're going to be out a ways from any of the major metropolitan areas. And so we're hoping for decent skies. And yeah, I'm going to make the most of my time out there besides sitting on a beach.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds amazing, man. Yeah. Please share your photos. I saw one on Twitter that you posted. That was pretty cool. I was shocked actually about how good you, not skill wise, but just that the camera was able to capture as much as it did. That was pretty sweet. So
yeah.
Very nice. SimCity, huh? Okay. Like as in the year 2000?
Yeah, it came out around the year 2000. It was SimCity 2. And they just called it SimCity 2000 because it happened to coincide around that. Actually, I think it came out before. Yeah, it did come out way before 2000, but that's just what they named it.
Gotcha. Okay, old school. That's fine. No, I'm just kidding. That's cool. Yeah, please share your pictures though. Ryan, your turn. What have you been up to, man?
Well, my biggest professional news is that this last adventure goes live for pre-orders on November 1st, and that's the day we're going to debut the book trailer and show the cover and all of that, and then pre-orders go live. So that's very exciting. That's
had no idea from your Twitter handle that was happening.
I know, right? I'm so coy on Twitter.
Yeah. But that's nice because it's got me excited now, so I'll be looking for it.
I'll be pre-ordering it for sure.
Oh, thank you.
So.
Pre-orders are actually super critical, especially these days, because they count as first week sales, and first week sales are huge. So I'll be working on just hopefully some fun stuff to incentivize people to pre-order, and yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, that's very exciting to know that we're sort of counting down to that stuff, and that it's on the horizon. On the game front, I know I'm supposed to be finishing and I will, but the Alan Wake expansion of Control, but I've been cheating on it with a couple of indie games. The first of which was I didn't fully finish my own. It was called 12 Minutes. I was very intrigued by it. It was a top-down time loop mystery, essentially, where you try to save yourself and your wife from this guy who comes to your door pretending claiming to be a cop, and if you do things wrong, you both end up murdered. It's essentially you try different variables and different cause and effects things each loop. And I was actually very impressed at the amount of variables you can leverage and unlock. It got to the point where I was like, all right, I feel like I've had my fill of this. And it felt like there was a long way to go. And then I looked it up, and so I ended up looking up there's like 9 potential endings, and none of them were wholly satisfying. So I was kind of glad I didn't spend all the time trying to find them. But the first, few hours was actually fun, just figuring out things you can do. The other one that I'm not done with, that I am still really enjoying, is called Superliminal. And it kind of the concept is you're kind of stuck in a dream state, working through these puzzles, and the whole theme of it, this doesn't spoil anything. They kind of show you the sign as soon as it starts, is perception is reality. So it's almost Portal-like puzzles, but you're not using portals. You're actually transforming objects and rooms and other things by playing with your perception of them on the screen based on and kind of part of the game is to figure out like how to play the game. And I've really been liking that. It's trippy and challenging, but in like a really accessible way. It's not like infuriating. It's just really fun. So I've been enjoying that. But I will get back to finishing the Control expansion so we can podcast about it.
No, I'm very early on Control, because I've been cheating on Control with other games too. So and I'm definitely going to cheat on it with Alan Wake whenever that comes out in a couple more days. So it's just that date just keeps getting pushed back. It's fine. It'll happen.
I'll look forward to what you think about Alan Wake, because I played the original version, of course.
Right.
I don't want to go back and play the new version, just because, as great as the game was, it's so stressful.
It is.
It's a very stressful game.
Yeah.
So I'll watch some YouTube videos. Like if you do a playthrough, I'll watch you doing that. I don't think my heart can handle playing through it again.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for it to have a resurgence.
I am debating whether or not I want to do a Let's Play on it, but we'll see what happens. But Ethan, I think Ethan was going to say something. Go for it.
Well, I was just going to ask that last game you were talking about, compared to Portal, how difficult are the rooms to figure out and advance through it?
I would say it's a similar level of fun and challenge. I would say the puzzles are simpler than the Portal puzzles are.
Oh, okay. So I might like it then.
Yeah, especially when you kind of figure out, this is the kind of when you figure out, this is the kind of thing I'm supposed to look for.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of get an idea of this is what the game is wanting me to do. And that doesn't hold through every puzzle, but and it's a very quiet game. It's a much quieter game than Portal. And the puzzles are it's some of the puzzles are how do I get through this thing or how to advance past that. Others are just playing with perspective in a really interesting way that kind of makes you think of things like level design differently, and it seems to me like somebody had fun making it. And I've really enjoyed. It's funny. I don't even know how far I am through the game. Maybe I'm almost at the end. Maybe I just started. I don't really have any concept of how many levels there are or what the end goal is. There is a little bit of dark humor, just a little bit, like there is in Portal. Like sometimes they'll have these announcements that they could kind of pipe into your dream, that are kind of funny, in a similar kind of way. I'm really enjoying it. It's just something different, a real departure.
The name again? Because I'm going to write that down.
Superliminal. It's on Game Pass.
Okay.
All Game Pass. It's funny you mentioned
12 Minutes is on Game Pass as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned 12 Minutes, because I was actually excited for that, because it's James McAvoy and Daisy Ridley, voice acting.
Well, the funny thing is, the version you download on there are multiple versions with multiple voice actors, and the one on Game Pass does not have them.
Seriously? That makes sense why it sounded different, because I was like,
wow. The only original voice actor is Willem Dafoe.
Okay, gotcha. Well, and I dabbled in it, and I was like, this is interesting, until my first run through, and this sucked me out of the entire thing. I was like, nope, don't want to do this. I was doing something, and it was like, oh no, that didn't work last time. Assuming that I had already played, but I hadn't played yet. I hadn't even gone through. I found a bug, or like I broke it or something, and it was like, oh no, I can't. It was like he's like, oh, I can't keep doing this or something like that, and but I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, we just started, So I haven't, I've heard very mixed reviews about that game. somebody said, like, who let M. Night Shyamalan make a game?
Yeah, I think that the concept was really interesting. Some of the things that they did with how you can play with the cause and effect, I thought was very clever. But I think they got too meta and too in their heads and went too crazy with like some of the potential endings, and you don't even really know which one's the real one, if at all. And then some people are theorizing, well, maybe none of this is real at all. Maybe it's just in the guy's head and he's crazy. This is so the fact that there's not like, it's not clear, and even if it was clear, none of the endings seem to be like that great. I was not sorry that I stopped when I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like you can like kill your wife immediately if you want to. Like it can give you the choice. Like you can pick up a knife. If you want to kill your wife, you can. You know.
Yeah,
I
mean, the time loop will restart.
Yeah, I was like, that's weird. Okay. Yeah. No thanks. No, thank you. But Superliminal, I've been seeing that all over the place, and it does look interesting. So maybe I'll try that at some point. I love Game Pass. I really do. It's a shame Xbox.
Yeah.
It's a shame Xbox can't put any of their own games on Game Pass though, because they don't have any yet. But that's okay. It's a good value. Just kidding. I can't go. Go ahead. Sorry.
I might not have spent the money on either one of those if I had to buy them and try them out. But the fact that they're smaller indie games that I could try for what I'm already paying, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I have to say, I told you so. I told you Avengers was going to come to Game Pass. I knew it was going to happen because it's a Game Pass game, and you know it is. Maybe they'll make a bunch more money. God, I wanted that game to be so good, and it's just not.
It's the last ditch attempt to save it, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I'm starting to see more and more. We may not be getting the Spider-Man content like you predicted. So maybe you'll be gloating and saying you told us so. So there you have it.
Did I predict that? Oh, okay.
You did. If, like probably 4 or 5 months ago, you were like, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I'm like, whatever, dude. So moving on. Game Pass continues to be a stellar deal. I use it as a kind of like there's a game that came on it today called Scarlet Nexus. Was something I was super interested in. It's a Square Enix game, but it's like real-time combat, and it's super sci-fi looking. It looks awesome, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on it because I had so many big games to play. So if I end up really liking it on Game Pass, I'll buy it on PlayStation next time it goes on sale. That's what I use Game Pass for, is like my rental service. But nothing was too crazy. Nothing's been too crazy for me over here. Been editing a lot of videos, playing a lot of games, playing a lot of Breath of the Wild. I jumped into New World, the new MMO from Amazon. Made a couple videos on that. Super, super cool game. I'm really interested in it so far. I got to try out Halo Infinite. The newest flight came out. It was pretty rad. There's another one coming out this weekend. And I think this is the most Halo feeling thing that 343 has put out so far. So I'd be anxious to hear what the listeners let the listeners think of what they've seen, as well as what they might have played. So, ladies and gentlemen, definitely write in with your thoughts over at thewannabecollective@gmail.com. We'd appreciate it. I bought Death Stranding again on PlayStation, and it's just sucked me right back into it again. I love that game so much. Last night, I got started. I was like right in the thick of it. And there's a point to where whenever you get like your first vehicle. So I was like, oh, great. I'll just do it. I looked at the clock. It was like 11 o'clock. I was like, I'll just do a few deliveries. Next thing I know, I look at the clock and, man, I'm kind of tired. It's like 3:45 in the morning. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be it. So I see this is going to be a problem again. So, there you have it. Not much else, though, for me. It's been pretty tame. So I think we could shift the conversation a little bit now towards a little bit of a Star Wars primer. Obviously, we all kind of feel differently about Star Wars. I think everyone kind of has their own spin on what Star Wars does for them. But Caleb mentioned off mic Visions. He had watched a couple episodes. I have not seen any of it. I've just seen clips. Obviously, I think The Bad Batch wrapped up. Is that right, Caleb?
Yep.
Okay, so it's finished. How many episodes were there? It feels like it went on forever.
think there were like 15.
15
maybe.
episodes? Okay, cool. Well, I'll have to pick a day and binge it all. So yeah, Star
Don't
Wars.
do that, because then you're gonna hate it.
I'll hate it if I binge it. Oh,
Yeah.
because he's making jokes about
We
the
watched
Clone
all
Wars.
of the Clone Wars and Rebels together. I know you, Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's maybe whenever it becomes my idea and I'm actually excited to watch it, I'll enjoy it. But no, it'll be no time constraints. You know, I'll just be able to be like, oh yeah, I'll watch that now. I don't have to talk about it anytime soon. So. But yeah, obviously we have some new property out, you know, with Knights of the Old Republic getting announced, the remake getting announced. There's no doubt going to be some more interest for Star Wars coming out. There's a new game coming out called Hunters for mobile and Switch that I'm super duper excited about. But yeah, I mean, what is the pulse though on Star Wars right now for us? Caleb, I want you to kind of go first on how you're feeling. How are you feeling about Visions and how you feeling about Star Wars in general?
Yeah, so I'll start with Visions. I've only watched like 5 of the episodes so far. I think there's 9 of them. And I'm not a huge anime fan. In fact, I like never watch anime. But I really do appreciate these. They're super artistic. They're not necessarily canon. They're, almost more legendsy and kind of like take different spins on things. And I think it's cool that they just let these different anime studios that basically just run with these different Star Wars ideas and create some really cool and just different stuff. And some are better than others. But I think there's something there for just about everyone. And if you're willing, maybe if you're like me and you're not a huge anime fan, if you're willing to just give it a shot as a Star Wars fan, you're probably going to enjoy it. Moving on to just kind of where I think Star Wars is and whether it's good or not, I'm overall pretty pleased with things. I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions, negative opinions based solely on the movies, whether, that's the sequel trilogy, or maybe you didn't like Solo or Rogue One or whatever. And I think there's a lot of negativity that comes from that. And I can understand that. I mean, I think specifically the sequel trilogy has a lot of faults, and we're eventually going to get into that. But I think that there's a lot of good there. And I think the reason that I think it's good right now where it is because it's almost where it's back to pre the Disney like buyout, because there's just so much content coming out. And I know that can make things messy, especially if you're really dedicated to the whole canon thing and the timeline and everything. But we have to remember, before, there was technically a canon and a Legends, before Disney bought everything, things were super messy. Like, there's comics about everything, there's games about everything. Everything kind of ran over itself. And now I think a lot of people kind of get bogged down in feeling about all the stuff coming out as being like unorganized and, just sloppy, when things were so much sloppier before Disney bought everything. So I don't really see that as a super valid argument. It's just kind of like being petty to be petty. That's my opinion. And overall, I appreciate it because, like before Disney purchase everything, there's stuff that's coming out and there's a little bit of something for everyone. And like I've said before, you can pick and choose which content you want to enjoy and not necessarily have to be invested in every single little piece of content. Whether you want to go through and read some of the High Republic books or all of them, or whether you want to play one video game or another or whatever, there's something there for everyone, and you can pick and choose what you want. I know for me, I consume a lot of Star Wars content, and I have absolutely no desire at all to read any of the comics. And I'm sure that there's some Star Wars fans that think that that's sacrilegious, but I just do not have a desire for that, and I think it's fine because I still understand most of everything that's going on. But if that's something that you're really into, that's fantastic, and it's amazing that you have that option. So overall, I think that where Star Wars is pretty positive. I think it's looking good going forward with all the TV shows being a really high quality. And I think there's some good people behind the scenes, especially like Dave Filoni. And you have to believe that George Lucas still has his hands on a lot of things as well. And I don't think that it's in as bad of a place as I think a lot of people would make you believe.
Eloquent. That was nice. I appreciated that. Ethan, anything you want to add to that, or, go for it?
Yeah, no, and I Believe it or not, I agree with you, Caleb. I'm not sitting here thinking or wishing Star Wars would fail. And I think that's where maybe some of the darkest areas of the internet probably are. They're waiting for Disney to run it into the ground, and they want to see it crash and burn, because that's just what, what's the phrase that we all love? Some people just want to watch the world burn. And I'm sure there are Star Wars fans out there that are like that. I'm not one of them. I have my beef with the sequel trilogy because of specific things that were done in those movies that just do not feel like they ring true with previous Star Wars. And I'm not talking about Legends. I'm talking about the previous movies. That's a whole other discussion. As far as where Star Wars is right now, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. There's a lot of variety out there, and it took them a little while to figure out how to roll it out best. And I think we're now moving into that phase where it's not just we own Star Wars, here you go. It's all coming at you. Open your mouth. We're going to turn the fire hose on. And now that I feel like they've stepped back from that, now we're getting a more measured, okay, what are fans really wanting? What makes sense? And now we're starting to see that rolled out. And we got our first hint of it with The Mandalorian, and that's been a huge success. And now we're looking forward to the end of 2023 when the third season's going to come out. Book of Boba Fett is coming. I'm excited about that. I'm going to be re-upping my Disney Plus subscription here shortly in the next month or two, because I'm going to catch up on Bad Batch and some of the other content that's come out just to catch up. But it's been nice in the last few months to have a breather, and I don't feel as concerned about Star Wars as I did, say, 2-3 years ago, when it felt like it was just churning out content, and it was churning out at such a pace that it's going to run itself off the rails. And now it does feel like we've had a breather, and now I'm that moderate excitement for what's coming down the pike. Games, Disney Plus content, shows. There are several shows that I'm probably gonna watch. It's in a good place. It's not about to go supernova though, and that's the nice thing about it.
Nice. Ryan, anything you want to add to that?
It's in kind of an interesting spot right now. I think we'll know a lot more in November. That's when they're supposed to make a lot of announcements about the next few years worth of things that are coming out. So I think a lot of the future of Star Wars is going to depend on that, on what they say they have coming, where the balance of power is shifting in the creative voices in Disney and Lucasfilm. I think the more power they can shift away from Kathleen Kennedy, the better.
I was wondering how long we would get into this conversation before her name got brought up.
Well, she's a valid name. She's the one who
she's the president.
She's the one who's responsible for a lot of things that happen, whether you're a fan of them or whether you're not a fan of them.
Yeah.
I personally am not a fan of those movies. I want Star Wars to be awesome. Like most things, I want things to be great. I want to enjoy them. I just want good stories, well told. And to me, they were not good stories, and they were not well told. The Mandalorian's great. I look forward to seeing how they build off of that. If some of the rumors I've heard are true, who knows whether they're true. Then they could be doing a lot of really interesting things with the next seasons of that and some other spinoffs from that. I'll be excited to see what they do with that. It'll be interesting to see. There's other rumors that say that Filoni and Favreau and some others have definitely a stronger hand on the wheel as far as the movies now creatively. We'll see if that turns out to be true. If so, I think it's a good thing. I think they've shown with The Mandalorian that they truly understand and respect what makes Star Wars work when it really works well. I don't have any interest in the Acolyte, given who's got creative control over it. I have concerns about the Knights of the Old Republic because it's not a remaster, it's a remake. And if you look at some of the writing team that are in the writing team on that, they're the same that were on this Spider-Man game, which I think was dismally written. As much as I love the action, the writing I think was very subpar. So I don't have a lot of hope for that. I think a lot of the legacy of what the next few years worth of Star Wars is going to be is going to rest on, just who has creative power and control. There's of course the darkest parts of the internet that, just want to see things suck because it makes them feel better. yeah, there
Want
are.
to see the world burn, Master Wagon.
Yeah, there are also some people that I think in a way kind of spitefully want to see it fail, because as soon as they started voicing criticisms of story and execution with these movies, they basically were told, oh, you just don't like it because you're sexist and racist, and any kind of actual discussion was drowned out just by them being insulted for not liking what the zeitgeist was saying that they should like. So I don't blame them for being angry, because they were told that they're terrible people and value judgments were being made against them simply because they were trying to, the better of them, the ones who weren't sexist and racist, were trying to talk about, okay, let's talk about what was subpar and what could be better going forward. But they were shouted down by people who just wanted to say that they were racists, and didn't like it because a woman was in the lead, which I was resentful of, because there's a lot of things that I could criticize in there and I couldn't care less who the lead was. So I think some longtime fan frustration out there is warranted, because that disposition came right down from the top, and was encouraged by the powers that were running Lucasfilm. And I think that is a very classless way to do your business. So yeah, let's just hope that the balance of creative power shifts to people who truly like and appreciate Star Wars and want to do it right.
Well said. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things. Just piggybacking off of Ryan's comments, I think, and kind of Ethan noted it too, when they first acquired Star Wars, it's like you get handed this amazing thing and you don't know what to do with it. And it's taken them close to a decade now, I think, to figure out how to handle it. And you can tell just by the way that things came out initially, and, just in the quality of those first movies and everything, that, something was off and they're still figuring it out. And I think that is kind of fair. The thing is with Star Wars is it triggers such an emotional response with so many people, because it, has such a vaulted place in their childhood, that there's very little forgiveness. So if you're kind of experimenting with something and you mess it up, there's very little room for forgiveness and that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of what's triggered so many people, and because they messed up, they've made mistakes. And while I don't think that those movies are absolutely garbage, I think that there's definitely areas where they could be majorly and pretty clearly improved. But another thing about anything that's as big as Star Wars, and that puts out as much content as Star Wars, and puts out as much content as Star Wars always has, basically since the 80s, there's going to be its good, there's going to be its great, and there's going to be absolute garbage. And the quality is going to vary based on just how big it is and how much content's going out. And that's true of anything in life. If there's that much content or that much being produced, there's going to be great, there's going to be good, and there's going to be bad. And it's just how stuff works. And there's going to be stuff that some people like and stuff that some people hate, but that's normal. That's not, just because it's Star Wars doesn't mean that everything has to be perfect. And I think that's what's good about it, is that there are kids that are growing up with the sequel movies that enjoy them, and more power to them for having something that they enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's probably, there's plenty of people that are going to think that the High Republic is ridiculous and, craps all over the Old Republic and all this stuff. And that's fine too. You can have that opinion. But what I'm saying is there's going to be content that's out there for everybody. And that's a good thing. If you limit yourself and you streamline it so much and you're so focused on just getting every single little thing perfect, it's going to end up hurting the entire product in the long run. And I think it's good that they're putting out as much content as it is. And overall, especially after the sequels have ended in the last couple of years, that content has been pretty high quality.
Well said. This is great discussion. This is good podcasting, gentlemen. Something that's been lacking here. No, just kidding. I kind of agree with the way everyone feels. Y'all know how I feel about the sequels. I think it was fun to fight about them when they were first coming out. But I enjoyed them from the aspect that they got me excited for the future. And I don't know, it's an interesting feeling to put on. I think me and Elijah Middlesworth, one of beer bros, one of the beer bros from the East Side, put it best, where it was like, yeah, but it's Star Wars. Like it, that there was an excitement that you don't get from anything else. And I think there was a part of me that was just kind of like, well, it's not going to be as good as what I grew up with, so I'm not going to really put, I'm not really going to put too much thought into what I'm watching. It was just kind of mindless in a way. Whereas, you watch a movie like Empire and it's a completely different story where it's like, this is classic. Like this is the good stuff. This is what I grew up on. I don't go back and watch the sequel movies ever. Like the only time, I think the last time I went to go back and watch them, was for review. I think the first time we did this. So I do think that's pretty much all that needs to be said, at least for the sequels from me, is I'm excited to go back to them to talk about them again. And just, because I think it's a very interesting piece of history at this point to talk about. And it's interesting to see the varied responses that those movies elicit out of people.
It is interesting though in hearing, like Caleb, in hearing your perspective. Because you've come up in a time where how many water cooler television shows have you watched and talked about with all your friends?
I mean, not a whole lot. Like,
okay.
We could talk about like The Office or something like that, but like,
right, yeah.
I mean, there's yeah, I don't know.
So let me ask, Ryan, how many water cooler shows do you remember hearing about or talking about in your years of entertainment?
Oh yeah, I mean there's so much content now that there's a lot more fragmentation. There are very few things that everybody's watching.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much choice. There are a few that become a part of cultural discussion whenever new episodes comes out. But it's definitely because there's so much out there.
And that's the thing. Common. Yeah. So I'm familiar with a time where everyone watched MASH. Everybody knew what was going on MASH. Everybody knew who shot JR or wanted to know who shot JR. That's what people talked about because that was what was on one of the 3 channels that you had at the time. And so it's really, that's where Star Wars was. It came out in 1977 and throughout the 80s. Do you like Star Wars? Yes. You're a friend. We're gonna play with the same toys. We're gonna play the same stories. We're gonna, it's a shared universe, and it was like that in the 90s as well. If you found somebody that was reading the books, you had somebody to talk with, and you had something that you could be passionate about. And anyone that you knew that read any of those books, you had a common experience that you had to discuss. And now, people ask, have you seen Bad Batch? I haven't. Am I going to? Yeah, I'm going to get to it at some point. But I'm not in the loop. It's not a shared experience anymore. And it's becoming more and more and more like that, where you're going to have your tribe within the genre,
Your sect. You're going to have a sect.
Yeah, and it's interesting and a little bit frightening on my end to see that, because now there are going to be the majority of those people that are going to say, yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan. You're a Star Wars fan. You like this thing over here. I like this thing over here. But we're still Star Wars fans. Yeah. Okay, so you can put a title on us, but that's about it.
But you can still fight about it, too. And I think you're kind of getting at what I was going to say, too, was I do miss a time where there was a feeling of unity, because I enjoy the sequel trilogies and see their flaws, but I do call myself a Star Wars fan, and there's other Star Wars fans that would be like, oh, well, do you say then like, oh, well, you're not a Star Wars fan? I don't think so. I don't think that's right. And no, so I totally agree with I totally agree with what everyone is saying. And I liked how Caleb put it. It's like, it's totally okay that there's so much content out there for everybody. And, that because there's so much more interest now, we've grown up in the age of the internet. It's way different than it used to be. And I do think we are getting to a time to where, and I mean, you're talking about a time where people may not watch the movies, but might play the Old Republic or might only read the comics. Like they may not watch any of the content that comes out. They're just reading stuff. So I do think we are getting to a better time for Star Wars where it's like, yeah, it's great that there's something out there for everybody. And there, we all acknowledge what the rules are right now, I guess, because, oh, hey, did you hear about this thing that came out in this comic or this book about the Force or whatever? We can find those middle ground moments, but it is kind of like a shotgun in a way, because you may not catch all of it. And in a way that's sad, but it's exciting. Like Ethan, I think Ethan said, like, oh yeah, like that's kind of scary. I haven't watched The Bad Batch, and I consider myself to be in the loop. I live on Twitter, so I don't know. Like I think there definitely is room for all of it, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the way it used to be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it has to be that way anymore. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, and I mean, I just find his water cooler thing, interesting, because there definitely, I think, still are shows that are like that. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the shows that are like that nowadays are not shows that I'm going to find myself watching, because things have gotten crazier. But anyways, we live in a time, though, where it's easier than ever to connect with people through the internet who share a common interest with us, and who it's easier than ever to find a community. If you're someone who just wants to talk about the original trilogy, you can easily find that. And if you're somebody who's a Bad Batch diehard, you could find that too. There's just so much, so many ways that you can find that water cooler. And you talk about a physical water cooler of like, you're going up and you're talking to a couple of guys in the office or wherever you work. And now you can be talking to, 100 people online. So yeah, while it's true that it might not be we all come into this, the four of us, and not every single one of us has consumed every single Star Wars thing, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. That's fine, because if we wanted to, we could go and find people that had, and that we would want to relate to. And if I wanted to find somebody that I really wanted to talk about the Bad Batch with, I could. And I don't know. So while it's true, there isn't like a water cooler Star Wars thing, although everyone was talking about The Rise of Skywalker when it came out,
or Mandalorian.
Or Mandalorian. There still is. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Not every single little thing in Star Wars is going to be like that.
Right.
Not every single person at the water cooler was sitting there talking about, the Thrawn trilogy when it came out in the 90s. I mean, that's just how it works.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever, it's like you can build your own lemonade stand, and it's like, hey, come talk with us, like come do it. And it's like you were saying, it's more easy. It's easier now than ever. It's like if you want to find somewhere to talk about the thing that you're passionate about, like you don't have, in a way, it's kind of less exciting because you don't happen to come across someone, and you don't have to be guarded. Like you're almost seeking it. Like back in the day, with no internet and stuff like that, you come across someone who says they're a Star Wars fan. It's like, so you read such and such, and it's like, yeah, those walls are immediately broken down. Whereas now, I can go join a Star Wars Facebook group with 20,000 people in it, specifically for the Bad Batch. I know that people are there for the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch. And you can bring up specific, like they've streamlined it in a super interesting way, and it is one of the biggest double-edged swords in entertainment. Star Wars is, because with a love of this huge property comes some of the most like awesome conversations and like really cool connecting points, but also comes with some of the most righteous toxicity I've ever seen in a fan base ever about anything. And it's nice to be able to get together and have these discussions, kind of like checking up every year. It's like, hey, how are we feeling about Star Wars right now? It's almost like this, it's almost like this ongoing MMO that we just kind of dip our toes into every once in a while throughout the year. It's like, yeah, what's changed? What's going on over here? I haven't really spent much time over here. How's it being received? Things like that. But I think one thing we can all agree on is that Empire Strikes Back is the greatest movie ever made. So unless you guys have any final comments about the state of Star Wars, I say we move on to that. I enjoyed that. That actually went way better. That took up the bulk of our discussion, which is great because, we're only going to talk about Empire for 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Caleb, what do you think? It's good. Ethan, great.
Yep.
Ryan, great.
Good night, everybody. So obviously Empire Strikes Back just reading some metrics here on Google. Came out in 1980 on the dot. It has an 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Has an 82% on Metacritic. Says the adventure. Not that we use those in any, as a compass in any way. That's just what the internet says about this movie. How much money do you guys think this made in the box office?
Were you adjusting for inflation or?
I mean, it just says box office. It says box office in here.
I would say 250 million.
Okay, Ethan.
I don't know. I really don't know.
It says $538 to $549 million made in the box office.
Jeez, that's a lot for 1980. Yeah, that's insane.
It's a lot of money. Says the adventure continues in the Star Wars sequel. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Chewbacca face attack by the Imperial forces and its AT-AT walkers on the ice planet Hoth. While Han and Leia escape in the Millennium Falcon, Luke travels to Dagobah in search of Yoda. Only with the Jedi Master's help will Luke survive when the dark side of the Force beckons him into the ultimate duel with Darth Vader. Yeah. I think it's completely ridiculous that 8.7 on IMDb. Come on. This movie's a 10 out of 10. I don't think it deserves anything less than that. This is my favorite movie of all time.
I think that is arguable. I'll play devil's advocate here.
Let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
I will because I mean, I have lived in a household with a wife that refuses to watch the movie now because she absolutely cannot stand Han Solo's response to Princess Leia when he's going into carbonite. She says, "I love you." He says, "I know." She gets so angry at that scene, and I bet you there's a large contingent of the female population, at the very least, that probably hates this movie because of that.
It's not
no other response would have been true to his character.
Exactly. It's not a
True.
It is not a it's not a dig at her being a woman, it's a dig at him being a douche. That's the point.
Yeah, it's
1980.
He's a rogue.
He's a rogue.
They probably all hate James Bond too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you want to. Yeah, I mean, and here's the deal. So would we say that The Dark Knight's a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, I would.
No,
it's a great movie.
I can't.
What
It is
in the world?
It is a great movie. I cannot. With Two-Face is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like, does not belong in that movie.
Who
It's
doesn't?
like Two-Face. Like, Two-Face is not for me. And
how am I
maybe
the one that enjoys The Dark Knight the most on this podcast? What? In
I
the world
love
is happening?
I love The Dark Knight.
I love it, but there's a handful of movies ever that I would rate as a 10.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a 10 out of 10 has to be. Obviously, it's different for everybody. To me, this movie, the way it moves, the way it's shot, the performances are weirdly good for a science fiction movie. The imagery, like the symbolism, like everything is just really well done, in my opinion, here.
The storytelling is really tight, and there are so many subtle little things that show how much thought was put into small world details and small pieces of subtle character development. It was very, very carefully crafted. You could tell. I could appreciate that more now, watching it at the state that I'm in now. Just having been an experienced writer now, I hadn't, just like A New Hope, I hadn't seen this one in years either, and being able to see it now through the lens of my own experiences, I was impressed all over again at how well put together this movie was. There were very few things I could even, of course, a little nitpick here and there, of course, but it would say a surprisingly tight movie.
Sure, and I think 10 out of 10 doesn't say, like, okay, for me, Harvey Dent is cool, but making him Two-Face and like that goes beyond like nitpicking, and there are nitpicks about this movie for sure. Like, as cool as Boba Fett is, I mean, he's fine. Like, you could have had any bounty hunter,
Yeah, he became kind of a legend later on because of extended universe stuff. This movie doesn't really do
No,
anything
and
more.
if you put yourself back in that, it's like, oh, he's kind of cool, and then he dies the next time we see him. It's like, what the heck?
I mean,
you know?
Boba
In
Fett
quotes,
single-handedly saved the Christmas special. I mean, you got more play out of him in the Christmas special than you did in Empire Strikes Back.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah. No,
But there's so many little details in this that I really love. Actually wrote a few of them down.
the direction is by far the best out of the trilogy here.
I'll interject this because we're touching on it. It was smart for Lucas to have other voices besides just his own, which he was going it alone with New Hope, and it shows, because the movie that got shot at his direction after he had written it needed a lot of help, needed a lot of work, and thankfully, I was listening to a podcast recently that really did a strong shout out to Marsha Lucas, who was his editor. She saved that movie.
She, every bit as much as Lucas, is the reason we have Star Wars at all now.
Exactly. And then for this movie, her voice got stronger because of what she had done for what we now know as A New Hope. And her voice shines through strongly and really shows just what a genius she was in looking at George Lucas's vision and then cutting it together so that it made even more sense than that first movie did. And that's why I feel like this movie is the classic and kind of the cornerstone of Star Wars. Because if you didn't have this movie, and if you didn't have the voices like Marsha Lucas or like Lawrence Kasdan that were in there with Lucas, grinding this thing out, the Star Wars franchise would be another sci-fi, moderately successful sci-fi series.
It wouldn't be it wouldn't be forgotten, but it wouldn't be iconic. I don't think it would have.
It wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't have the. I mean, people that don't know Star Wars know I'm Your Father. I mean, that comes from this movie, and you can't say enough good things about Empire Strikes Back and the people that put it together for what they did to pop culture and to sci-fi nerds and geeks like ourselves.
Yeah, I think her approach. Lucas is great at world building, but he's a robot. I don't think he has a lot of human emotion.
Watch the prequels. Anyone who's mad about that, just watch the prequels.
Yeah.
This is my saga. Yeah.
So all of the stuff, like especially in the finale of the original, that made it like gripping and interesting to watch, that was all her. Because apparently the way he cut, even like the trench run and everything, that whole assault on the Death Star was more like, they said, felt like a documentary. Extremely cold and matter of fact. She was the one who cut together all those scenes to look like that really gripping chase. She was the one who even had the concept, after they had shot the whole movie, of that ticking time bomb making it to where the Death Star had found the rebel base. That was nowhere in the script. She cobbled that together based on already shot material. I mean, the woman was a wizard.
Lucas was making a World War II documentary.
Yeah,
or a shot for shot stock footage film.
Even little things like in Return of the Jedi, when Emperor gets tossed down that shaft, she was the one that said, no, there should be this huge release of power. And that whole wave of energy that came up, that was all her. It was nothing but him like falling off a cliff until she came along and said, that is not nearly enough for that guy dying. So yeah, you can definitely see her fingerprints in this, and Irving Kershner's. It's like people feel like living, breathing people in this movie more so than the original. And I loved the original.
It's relatable. It's the most relatable Star Wars movie, period.
And the scenes are built up with emotion and tension, and it's allowed to be full of feeling. I was just sitting back kind of marveling at certain scenes. Like I know practically every line of dialogue in that movie from having watched it as a kid, but still, like the scene when they're about to freeze Han is just so incredibly tense.
Chewbacca's all pass.
Yeah, and when Luke arrives in that scene, and how, I mean, just the set design and the lighting and the sound is just so incredibly beautifully ominous. And this movie is such a work of art. Even in just the little things that you see that hint on character growth, like with Han running out to save Luke on Hoth. This is a very different Han than we got to know in A New Hope, and he's gone from that kind of guy to someone who would, without thought of his own safety, run out in a deadly cold, pick up a lightsaber and use it, something that he laughed at before, and put himself on the line to save a friend. That kind of Han did not exist in the first movie, and I love seeing, without them having to put like a fine point on it or or hit you over the head with it. They just let you see, yeah, he's growing as a person. And there's 100 little examples like that of a lot of care being shown with building the world and building the characters very naturally.
Love that. Favorite moments. Obviously, we could go in and we're not going to talk about if this is a good movie or not. We all know it is. Is there anyone that doesn't think that this is a 10 out of 10? First of all.
Oh, it's a 10 out of 10. For me, it's a 10
Unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think that this is not a 10 out of 10, I'm going to need you to go ahead and email me right now. thewannabecollective@gmail.com. That's all I have to say. You raised your hand. We're banning the hand raising. Step on each other's toes.
Okay.
We're getting rid of that. Just step on them.
I have a scene.
Yeah, go for it.
My favorite scene, and it's just a moment, but it's my favorite thing in the whole movie. Oh man, Han Solo is such a friggin' boss. The guy. Okay, so a door opens and suddenly the boogeyman of the galaxy is standing there waiting. And what does this normal dude do? Does he run and hide? No, he pulls out his blaster and he starts shooting at him. That guy is a boss. Oh man, what a cool scene and what a cool dude.
Yeah, no, I think we could say the guy has balls. I mean, that's probably what you have to wonder what Darth Vader was thinking. Darth Vader's probably like, you gonna shoot at me? Like, dude, I'm a wizard. Come on, man. I like in that moment too, and Chewie immediately on the defensive, Chewie's all, yeah, they're ready to go to war. Like it gives you that feeling of these guys have seen more than we realize, and they're ready to go toe to toe with anything. It doesn't matter if if it's a Jedi or, anything, doesn't matter. So yeah, no, I love that scene too, Ryan, for sure. Caleb, what's your favorite scene? What's your favorite moment in this movie, you think?
There's a lot of really, really good ones. I won't mention any of them because I'm sure you guys are probably going to take one or two of them that I'm going to leave on the cutting room floor. I love the lightsaber fight between Vader and Luke, and mainly just because there's so much there of you get to learn a little bit more about Vader. And I love how in the beginning he's one-handed dueling Luke. Like he's just kind of toying with him and playing with him and trying to get him into the carbonite. And then, Luke surprises him at times, and I just love it because you can see Vader almost like kind of growing and like learning throughout that fight. And then there's the whole part where Luke is out on the walkway, he goes like inside, and then Vader like comes out of the shadows and is like both hands just full on in attack mode against Luke. And I just love, like, you can tell like Luke's overmatched. Like it may have seemed like a fairly, even fight towards the beginning, but in no way is this an even fight. Like Vader is toying with him, and Vader gets Luke right to where he wants him, and Vader executes everything basically perfectly, except for Vader makes the mistake of allowing his emotions for Luke as his son to allow Luke to sneak out onto that ledge and fall off and do something that Vader didn't expect. Like something that Vader wouldn't have had the strength to do. It's really, really good. I love that whole scene. Of course, you get the classic "I am your father" scene that everybody misquotes, and it's an amazing part of the movie.
Because I have been reading a lot of Star Wars comics lately, and this time through, I love that you mentioned that scene because Vader is toying with him, but he's almost like using this as like a lesson. Like, all right,
yep,
you are like for all intents and purposes, Vader has already adopted the fact that they can turn Luke, and he's like, it's time to learn. Watch this. I want to see what you can do. I love the imagery they use in that scene because if you notice, Luke, do you know what color his stuff is that he's wearing? What color is it?
Grayish.
It's gray and it's spattered with black. And Lucas was always very intentional about, everyone there was always intentional about visuals. And we kind of get the idea of like, okay, maybe he is kind of starting to turn, I love that visual cue, and Luke is the first one to strike. That is a very un-Jedi thing to do, for Luke to lash out first. So Vader's like, oh, okay, and yeah, one-handed, it's like, dude, come on. They're just going back and forth, and I love how they show how inexperienced Luke is and how his training isn't complete. He isn't even close to being a Jedi. He's just he's an angry individual with a perception of the Force, or a very, very tip of the iceberg knowledge of the Force and what it can do. And I love how even before we get to that scene, Yoda and Obi-Wan, for like a long time, they're like, hey, this is a bad idea. Don't do that. You should not go. And Yoda's like, I love how they, Yoda could have kept him there. Yoda didn't even want to train him, though. Yoda's like, Yoda might have even seen this in the future. He may have known this was even going to happen, or it could have happened. Maybe he thought he could change it. I don't know. That's all conjecture. But everything in those moments, from Luke to Yoda to Obi-Wan to Vader, is so on point with all of their characters and where they should be. Because Obi-Wan's like, I can't intervene. I can't do anything. Yoda's not going to keep him there, because then what if that pushes Luke to the dark side even further? And then what happens? We see it all play out. But everything is so intentional, and I just love everything from that whole sequence, from him leaving Dagobah and coming from a good place, but realizing, us as the audience, he thinks what he's doing is right. Who does that sound a lot like? Anakin Skywalker. No, this is the right thing to do. I should do this. Not realizing that he's playing himself right into the clutches of the Emperor, basically, who knew that this would be the best way to go about this. Or Vader, Vader and the Emperor totally, were working this whole thing out. And again, subtly showing Palpatine has everything planned out from square one once they realize who Luke even is. So yeah, I mean, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, it's interesting you point out something I hadn't thought of. The costuming thing, because on the other end of the spectrum, Leia was dressed in all white. So it's like he was between Leia in all white, Vader in all black.
Yep.
I hadn't thought about the gray he was wearing, but that's very interesting. Cool little details. Some other things that I just really like. Well, again, little things that suggest thought about character. When he first arrives at Bespin, his first instinct when he's sneaking around is to pull his blaster. So even in his own head, he is not a Jedi yet, or he wouldn't even think of the blaster. He'd just go for the lightsaber. I think that's interesting. It's like they didn't shine a light on it either. They just let you see, oh, yeah, okay. So even in his own head, he may think he's ready, but he's not there yet. Let me look at some other things I wrote down. It's just little details that I really liked. You can cut out this pause as I'm reading through my.
No, we're keeping it. We keep all of the dead.
Can I get my favorite scene? While we're waiting for Ryan.
Oh yeah, please give me a second to read through this.
Yeah, my favorite scene actually is where we have a much younger Maz Kanata working with the Ugnaughts down in the machine shop, and one of the droids pushes in a parts bin, and sitting on top of it is this hand holding a lightsaber. Oh wait, that hasn't happened yet, but I guarantee you it will. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, I agree with you, Ethan, and I love that. It was a consistent thing that's here. Like, oh yeah, Luke has a lot of power and potential, but when he meets someone who's far better trained than him, guess what happens? He gets his clock cleaned. I wonder where that didn't happen the way it should have.
Yeah. No, and in all seriousness, though, one of my favorite scenes as I've gotten older and on subsequent rewatches, one of the things I really have appreciated is the scene where Luke first meets Yoda. And one, because of all the reasons that we understand, when Yoda shows up on screen, we now have seen Yoda in action, and we know what type of person he is, and that colors our impression. But what I have come to appreciate, though, is what we're kind of talking about here. Luke's not a Jedi. He desperately wants to be, or at least he thinks he wants to be. And he is supremely confident in his youth and ability. And so when he shows up with Yoda and his interactions with him and R2-D2, they're sparring back and forth, and the hitting him with the stick and everything. It's comical, and when you're a kid, it's just there to laugh at. But I think about, in my life, how many times someone older than me has come to me and has tried to tell me something, has tried to give me counsel, has tried to subtly show me a better way, And I've been so supremely wrapped up in my own ability, in my own youthful vigor, that I failed to learn the lesson when that opportunity was given. And that's a moment in a movie that, yeah, you laugh at it when you're young, but when you get older, you look at it and you're like, wow, I recognize myself in that scene now. And so that's something that I have really recently, in the last decade or so, have come to appreciate about the movie.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I've been kind of giving, kind of retorts to each of your all's favorites moments, or like moments you like. My favorite thing, hands down, about this movie, and this is the thing that makes it my favorite movie of all time, is the mentorship and relationship between Yoda and Luke Skywalker. The music that swells whenever, because we have all had those moments where you're like, I can't do this. Like, there's no way to do this. Like, there's no possible way to find an outcome to this thing. And I think about, with the X-Wing, he's like, oh, it's too big. And, Yoda's like, you're an idiot, and he just lifts it up and the music swells. I tear up every time because it's beautiful. I got to watch it in the theater last year at the Alamo Drafthouse, and it was an amazing experience. I cried in the theater. Like, it's a very impressionable scene on me, and that's my favorite thing about the movie. I just wanted to kind of take us there for a second while you had mentioned it, because this is one of the most relatable things of all time, in that youth is wasted on the young, right? If only you could go back and change micro decisions that could alter the course of your life. And I don't know, I think that there's a lot to be said about the power that even this movie has, for sure. But go ahead, Ryan.
I think the best lines in all of Star Wars exist in those training scenes. They're beautifully done, and you could tell, like, whoever wrote those parts of the script and directed was really kind of feeling like the spirit of it, and it was just done beautifully. Like, even little things, when Luke says, "I don't believe it," and Yoda says, "That's why you fail." It's like, oh yeah, man, that's just right between the eyes, man. And just beautiful things, beautiful moments. It's moments like that, actually, that I was watching this and thinking, I would hope that kids that now are growing up and being introduced to Star Wars get to watch the originals first, because they could experience those scenes without the baggage of knowing Yoda's colossal failure in the prequels. Yeah. And they can really appreciate him for really, I think, the extra wisdom he has gained from his failures, even at 800 and some years old when the Republic fell. And I hope they could experience that Yoda just purely for what it is in this movie, because it's just awesome.
On the other hand, too, well, not to cut you off, I know you have more to say, but I think in a way it has meant even more to me now after growing up with the prequels too, and watching and being like, lore wise, it's even more powerful. It's like, wow, yeah, Yoda's literally trying to prevent what is going to happen to Luke, because he saw what he went through it. He watched Dooku go through it. He watched Qui-Gon go through it. He watched Obi-Wan, in a sense, go through it. It's like and he's gone through it for X amount of time. So he's seen all of this stuff happen. So it's like, you almost kind of don't blame him whenever he doesn't make Luke stay, in a way. It's like, yeah, he's seen it all already at this point, and he's gone through it himself. He knows what is going to happen. And yeah, no, I think it is all right between the eyes. So go ahead.
It's interesting also because it shows us the seeds of how Luke is supposed to be a better version of what those Jedi were. Even down to the point where Yoda says, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Well, he believed that, and Luke proves him wrong by redeeming his father, by expressing and putting his money where his mouth is, and expressing his belief that his father still had good in him. Now, there are some Sith that, of course, Palpatine's never going to be redeemed, but the fact that Yoda, even with all the lessons he learned, was still dogmatic in that way, and Luke showed that there was a better way, really showed that he was shaping up to be like what Jedi should have been, and what the Jedi of the Republic had fallen from.
And apparently that only lasted about 15 years.
Right, yeah, and then he lost it too.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
Down a dark path this will lead us. So yeah.
Don't go there. It happened. I'm just saying it happened in those expanded universe books you love so much. But it's okay. No, I'm just joking. No, I think there's a lot of good stuff there in in the in this movie, you know, all pertaining to Yoda, all pertaining to like general lessons in life in general. That's why I say it's like the most relatable Star Wars movie. Not to mention, this movie goes by so fast. By the time we leave Hoth, we're halfway done. We're halfway through the movie. Because I remember I had started this back. In a way, Hoth has always been my least favorite part of the movie. I think it's visually really impressive and it's cool seeing those giant walkers, but at the same time, like I've dismantled those in Battlefront 2, so it's like it's not that impressive to me anymore. But it is always a cool scene. The character stuff doesn't happen though in that first half of the movie. The majority of the character stuff happens after they've left and they've separated, you know, and we kind of see the relationship growing between the team, and we kind of start to realize that this is not going to end well. They literally telegraph through the entire movie, hey, this does not have a happy ending. And if you think that there is one, you haven't been paying attention, because the good guys lose in this one. And I think that's a big reason why this movie is so great, is to have that feeling of defeat and not have it be typical is amazing. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. So we're about an hour and 20 minutes in, gentlemen. So I think it might be a good time to have some final thoughts. Caleb, go for it. Do your thing.
Can I just say one last thing just to try to get a rise out of Ethan and Ryan?
Oh, God.
I'm just having fun tonight. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's dance.
I was just going to say that this movie, which is incredible, just basically has the same plot device as The Last Jedi, in that they can't get into hyperspace. If they could just get into hyperspace, all their problems would be gone. But they can't go into hyperspace.
That's good.
For various reasons.
That's good, Caleb.
Touche. Touche.
And so the difference between those two movies proves that what really matters is not the idea, it's the execution.
Boom.
And that's a good point. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah. I think there's the thing that I love about this group in general is, you know, who hates the sequels. Yet I've never heard either one or any of the people. The people I cannot stand are the people that have nothing good to say. And that's just unfair, because there are good things to say about all three of those movies. And I will fight you on
Canto Bite.
Canto Bite is the most interesting place in Star Wars history ever. But the people are like, no, nothing's good about those movies. You're wrong. I'm sorry. Like that, you can find something good to say about all three of those movies. So, either way, Empire is the equalizer for all of us Star Wars fans. It is the cornerstone, as Ethan put it earlier in the show, and I think we can agree it's the best one.
This movie gave us my favorite '90s nerd rock band, Nerf Herder. I mean, that's where they got their name. There you go.
I will say one thing I love about this movie is I love how good the dialogue all is. And it's just so natural, and there's so much just comebacks and name calling throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. I love it so much.
It's funny you called it the hyperdrive stuff, because there's one of those hyperdrive failures that leads to a moment that I love. It's when they take off from Bespin, and Vader's like, hey, did you deactivate the hyperdrive? And the officer's like, yes. And then they immediately jump to hyperspace. The look on his face is like, crap, I'm dead.
Yep.
I also another little thing. I love seeing Vader off the leash in this. Like in the New Hope, he's under Tarkin's thumb the whole movie, and now that Tarkin's dead, it's just Vader just murking anybody that like does something even remotely wrong.
Even over a phone call.
It's crazy.
Like, well, you're dead.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had that power on Zoom. Wow.
Yeah.
I told you to turn off your mute.
Oh my God! Someone should reenact that. That would do really well. Like make it like the hologram style. That'd be rad. Yeah. I have always found that to be interesting as well, Caleb, with Vader. And there's so many Vader comics with so many cool things about Vader, but there's also so many cool things about Anakin in those comics. And that is one thing that I wish we had in this original trilogy, and I guess we do get it in Return of the Jedi. I wish we had I guess if you had more inklings of Anakin, like it'd probably be too much. Obviously, we do have a little bit at the end of of this movie. I do think that there are a lot of times where you could argue that Vader's turn may not feel earned or deserved or redeemed or whatever, because he does feel pretty robotic throughout all three of these movies.
I was gonna say you almost. I'm thankful that they did not do prequels before this movie, because this is Anakin's darkest moment.
Yeah.
This is where he is furthest from Anakin.
Yeah.
At this point, and so really you don't want to see any hint of it. Certainly not in this movie.
Yeah.
You get it at the very end of Return, and while some people argue, well, it was quick. Well, fine. It's what you had to have.
And I mean, we do get moments like that in Rebels, or at least one or two moments like that in Rebels, which is cool. And I think that adds to the coolness of these movies for sure. But yeah, I think I do think if I had one criticism, I do think having Vader feel so robotic in this movie most of the time, and like he's off the leash, like he's just doing his thing. Who knows what he did off screen? Good God. It's hard for me to relate to him, and maybe you're not supposed to. I don't know. But it does feel a little on the nose whenever he's like, join me and do this thing. It's like, okay, that was crazy. Like, that was mind blowing. That was insane. And now I'm left with like a lot of this stuff to unpack by the end of the movie. So it's just like a super, super duper small nitpick, and it comes from trying to place myself in that time period and be like, now what? Wait a minute. Like, are you serious? Oh, okay. I buy it. Cool. Makes sense.
Well, I think you're supposed to feel what Luke felt, which is absolute utter horror at the thought.
Yeah.
And so I think
In shock.
in shock. And I think Vader had to feel inhuman in order for that horror and shock to really land and to be magnified.
to see this guy that's been choking people just throughout the whole movie, and it's like, that's our protagonist's father, and having that just like hammer dropped on you. I can't imagine being and going to the theater and seeing that and having that twist revealed. Like, it's one of the things I wish I could go back and relive that, and I didn't have that knowledge, because it's so good. It's such a well set up little a twist. It's fantastic.
I wish I was able to grow up not knowing, because it was like I don't remember not knowing that Vader wasn't Luke's father. I don't remember the moment where I had that realization of like, oh, so it's hard for me to shove that aside. So it's kind of a curse in a way. But yeah, I mean, I get what you guys are saying. Like, having him feel inhuman makes total sense. So criticism refuted. 10, 11 out of 10. 11 out of 10, gentlemen.
There's
Have you ever seen?
Sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
No, you go.
There's a moment from a comic. I think I have the pages somewhere. If I do, I'll send them to you, or if I can find them. I don't know what series it was, but it basically, you get to see Vader at the moment where he's on his Star Destroyer. He's kind of looking out the window at space, and an officer comes up, and it's sort of the aftermath of the first Death Star being destroyed. And he reveals to Vader the knowledge we've tracked down and figured out. The rebel pilot who destroyed the Death Star, all we've found about him is his last name, Skywalker. And there's it's a beautiful moment, just using a lot of quiet and negative space, where Vader he's talking to himself, and he just says, I have a son. And in the next frame, all of the glass of the window has spiderwebbed. It was just beautifully powerful. There was no way you could put that in these movies. It just doesn't fit. But as a side thing, I thought it was
cool.
just beautifully done.
Shout out to comics, dude. I freaking love comics so much. Like,
and I'll also give a shout out to Shadows of the Empire, the middle book that bridges the time between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Excellent book for a lot of these moments that we're talking about. Gives you a lot more darker insight into Vader's mental state, knowing that Luke is out there and what he's got to do to maneuver things to keep Palpatine at bay and bring him into the fold. And it's just, that was a great book, a standalone book.
is that a graphic novel?
No, it's a novel.
Well, there's a graphic novelization of it as well.
Oh,
So.
that is
and
true.
a game
That is
based
true.
on it too.
Yeah, there was a game too.
Yeah, wasn't that
But-
like a whole like series of things that they did? Like, as a whole
Not
project?
a series. It was just a one-off novel. A lot of things sprung from it because it was very popular. But it was, I don't know that Lucas ever gave his blessing to say that this was truly canon. But fans of the time in the middle 90s truly did accept this novel as this is what happened between the two movies, the last two movies of the trilogy. And I remember being caught up in the hype of that time and consuming the video game and the just all the hype that went around it was great. I had the soundtrack. They came out with a soundtrack that kept to a lot of the beats of the book, and it was quite enjoyable.
So, Shadows of the Empire, the game it's based off the book.
Yes,
Buying it.
I think there's a YouTube channel and they do a podcast too, but I think it's Mr. Sunday Movies, and I think he has like a whole like video that's all about Shadow of the Empire. I think that's where I've heard of it before.
Somewhere up here, I've got the ship from Shadows of the Empire. It looks like it's the YT 2000.
Yeah, it's a Corellian freighter, right?
Yeah, it's a Corellian freighter, like in the same vein as the YT 1300. And that was the Outrider was the name of the pirates, YT 2000 from Shadows of the Empire. Yeah.
Boom.
I'm gonna have to check that out sometime because I've only heard good things from people that have, I guess read that and delved into that content. So I'll have to check that out.
For sure. Gentlemen, it's been an hour and a half. It's been a lot of fun. I think this is one of my favorite podcasts I've done in a long time. I look forward to podcasting with this group. It does make me sad. We are officially concluding our review of The Empire Strikes Back. So there you have it. But it does make me kind of sad thinking that some part of the original crew isn't sticking around for a more regular basis. But I'm hopeful for the future and the fate of this particular project. Obviously, Ethan, we're super happy to have you signing on more often. It's been a lot of fun. And Ryan, I've really appreciated you. I thought for sure you would, leave at some point. I thought you would leave me. But no, it's been a lot of fun to continue to podcast with you. And Caleb, let's be real, you're not going anywhere. And if you do, I would understand, So, no, I'm just kidding. So, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. Go ahead and plug all the stuff, and I mean all of it. So, Caleb, is there anything that you would like to plug that we should be aware of?
Yeah, just you can find me on Twitter at ChiefNY18.
Okay, Ethan.
You can find me on Twitter at Ethan Maestri. Also check out at Andromeda Pod. That's our Twitter feed for the Drive Back the Night podcast with Ryan Mazzocco and I, where we review episodes of Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. Episode by episode, so you can find me there.
And Ryan?
At Ryan Dalton on Instagram, Ryan Dalton on Twitter, wherever your favorite books are sold. And second plug for This Last Adventure, which goes live for pre-orders everywhere, but if you can order from an indie store, much appreciated.
I gotta ask, because I haven't asked yet, and I want to know. Is this part of the Time trilogy or the
No,
this is a different project.
Completely standalone, separate, its own thing. Yeah. Wildly different genre and all of that. Yeah. So have I ever talked about what it's about? I'll give you like the 10-second elevator pitch. It's aged a little younger, so it's a middle grade book. So it's middle school. It's about a boy, 13-year-old boy, whose grandfather is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and so the boy tries to use storytelling to save his grandfather's memories. So that's what it's about.
Am I going to be tearing up if I read this?
Well, people have teared up, and I'll say this: I very purposely did not want to write a depressing book. So are there sad?
So it's not Steel Magnolias.
No.
Or anything like
So
that. Okay. All right.
Is it a sad, tragic book? No. I wouldn't want to write that kind of thing. But yeah, there kind of has to be sad moments when that's the subject. But yeah, I didn't want to write something that was just like dark and you feel blah at the end. But yeah, that'll be available, like I said, 11/1. If money is tight and you can't pre-order it, totally understand. What's helpful as well, request it from your library. And if libraries get requests to stock certain books, then they'll buy the books and stock them. And that also helps authors. So you could, if you want to support an author, you could do it without spending a dime. That's it for me.
There you have it. Good thing you have a podcast where we can like literally have you on to talk about it after it's come out, after we've read it. We can tell you what we thought of it. I'm looking forward to that greatly, honestly. Having a professional creator. I mean, that's really, when you boil it down, that's literally what Ryan is doing. He is bringing his passions to life professionally, which is, I think, something that, in a sense, we have all at one time or another said, like, man, that'd be awesome if I could do that. Like, for me personally, it's content creation. Like, I've been able to start a business based off the work I've done, which is great. But to make money off of something that I made playing a video game, that would be amazing someday. I'll work toward it. I'll earn it. It's nice to have somebody who has earned that position. So I greatly look forward to seeing, you excited about your project, this creation of yours coming to life. I greatly look forward to having you on to talk about it, hopefully with a full panel of people who have read it. And yeah, it'll be super exciting. We're super happy for you, man, for sure.
I appreciate that. Really do. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm trying, while we're on the subject of authors, I'm trying to get, convince one guy Mace to become a wannabe. How rad would that be?
Nice.
I think he's enjoying coming on the podcast a little more than he wants to admit. But because it was just, this whole thing was he told me, he's like, yeah, man, I'll come on, because that's your thing. And I want to support that. I'm like, cool. But I think he's enjoyed it quite a bit. So we'll see what happens. But definitely be on the lookout for our Skyfall review as we record that, I think, in a couple weeks, right? Next week we will be hitting Return of the Jedi. So not sure who we're gonna have on that for that yet, unless Ethan says he's down right now. Well, Ethan will be on vacation, so yeah, he'll be out. So we'll have to find someone else. Probably Aaron McCoy. That might be a good one for Aaron McCoy to be on for sure. But yeah, definitely be on the lookout for various content we have coming over in this space. You can follow me over at The Wannabe Critic. I'm very loud and proud about what I do, and very passionate about the content I create. I do a lot of different stuff. The one thing I wanted to give a shout out to, my music channel has been like popping off recently, where I do music reactions. The highest volume numbers I've ever seen, content-wise. So you can go check that out over at Wannabe Music Reviews. I have a couple reactions coming out to a band called Ginger, metal female vocalist, and just kind of blows your mind a little bit with what she can do with her voice, kind of crazy. So you can stay tuned for those, and I'm excited to see where that project goes as well. So lots of positive things all around. And I don't want to put Caleb on the spot, because I don't know if he wants to be put on the spot, but Caleb, do you have anything that you want to talk about content-wise?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure yet. So, okay. Put on the spot. No big deal.
Hey, since he couldn't make it to the Quantum of Solace, I just wanted to say, Caleb, you came up in that conversation anyway.
I did?
Yeah. Your nickname is now Strawberry Fields.
Oh, boy.
Okay, yeah. There you have it. Sorry, Caleb.
Wait, is that chick's name? Is her name Strawberry Fields
Yeah.
in that movie? Oh, my God.
No wonder I
It's the most
hated
James Bond thing
Oh,
ever.
come on. Wow, you guys are no fun.
Daniel Craig's supposed to be better than that.
Oh, my God. He's like, what's your name? Strawberry.
Man, that was a hard rebound for him.
Yeah, poor guy.
Hard rebound.
Poor
He
guy.
should have stood up and walked away as soon as she said Strawberry Fields.
Yeah, that would have been
Who
funny.
names their kids Strawberry
Like,
Fields?
no, that is danger. So, no, good times. Well, gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for showing up and participating as usual. It was a blast. And until next time, say goodbye.
Bye.
Adios.
Well, whatever possessed you to check out any of the content that you saw today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If you check the description down below, you'll see that there's a variety of different projects that I'm associated with. This is Wannabe Critic Productions after all. So I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed what you saw today, consider giving some of those other projects a chance as well. There's a lot of stuff that I'm a part of that I do. If you were here for me or for someone else that you saw today, again, just thank you for checking it out, and I hope to see you again. But until next time, I'm Gabriel Fast, and I'll always be the Wannabe Critic.